My channel, The Black Accountant. If you haven't already done so, go. Oh wait, sorry. It's your boy Mo. If you haven't already done so, go ahead and like, comment, and subscribe, and let me know of any kind of content you want to see going forward. So today I'm going to be talking a little bit about a subject that closely relates to me, especially in the ways of networking, and that is networking while Muslim, in particular, how my religion affects my networking. So, just as a disclosure, before I even talk about anything else, is I'm not going to say anything about like any kind of racism or bigotry or anything along those lines. Most people respect the fact that you have your religion, especially when you're very upfront about it. Um, and it's not usually a problem when it comes to getting hired at most companies or businesses, since there are anti-discrimination rules or regulations or whatnot. But what I'm talking about is going to be a little bit more subtle, and the main factor here is always going to be the alcohol. You know what I'm saying? That's a big part, especially in the industry that I'm involved in, which is consulting and accounting. A big part of getting to know your coworkers and getting to know other people, and even just getting to know random people, is people like to grab drinks after work or go to bars and things along those lines. Now, as a Muslim, depending on religiosity level, you may or may not feel uncomfortable with that. And there's no real pressure for you to really go do that by those people, because you've already, like I said, you might have already stated that you're Muslim and that you don't drink. But it becomes a problem down the line when you're trying to form real connections with people and really get to know people, because most people don't feel confident really talking about themselves unless they're a little bit more inebriated, you know? And it's going to feel awkward for that person, to get drunk in front of you and you're just sober and watching them, because then it's like you're just awkwardly sitting there making that person also feel awkward about being drunk. So there are a couple of ways to go about it. And then for me, what I really found to work at first, when I was networking, I would be the designated driver. So I'd offer to drive people home, and then everybody could kind of have a good time and get to know each other and talk. And then I would just be like, hey, like, I'll be the sober one. And that works sometimes. And then other times it doesn't as much. And like I was saying earlier, it also depends on your religiosity level, right? So you may or may not be comfortable even going to bars or being around alcohol. And what I would suggest then at that point is to try to really network with people that are also Muslim or people that also don't drink, because in that way you don't feel that kind of pressure. And I would say it requires a little bit more effort on your part, because you need to be a little bit more outgoing. You may need to be a little bit more involved in listening to people when they talk to make people feel more at ease, if you're not going to be somebody that opens up that way. So I'd say it also kind of heavily relies on your state and your industry. So earlier I mentioned accounting and consulting. These are really heavily known industries that drink a lot. Another part of it is also uh, California. And I would describe California as being more of a state where people kind of wake up and already have their plans of what they're trying to achieve or their tasks and goals for the day. And if you really want to get to know somebody, that usually happens during happy hour or later on during the day when people are already done with their work. So if you want to make people feel a little bit less awkward, what you could do, if you're comfortable enough to go to bars and then go to these types of locations, is you could order virgin drinks. You don't need to get alcohol. You can get a soda. You can get whatever it is. And as people start to get drunk, you just match their energy level. So if they start becoming more aloof, you become more aloof. You know what I'm saying? So that way, that person doesn't feel awkward, and you kind of meet each other halfway, so they don't feel silly for being the way that they are, and you don't feel bad for being the way that you are. I would say it really kind of worked for me because I was always kind of comfortable talking to anybody. You know what I'm saying? It's just like actively listening gets you a lot further anyway. So, well, like I was saying, most people don't really enjoy talking about themselves or talking about things like that. Um, it takes a little bit of work to get people out of their shell. You know what I'm saying? So I guess what my point is that it takes a little bit more effort and energy on your part than what it would regularly be. So you need to kind of build up some confidence in terms of talking to people. So get yourself used to doing that and become a little bit more of an active listener than the active speaker. And I think that gets you a little bit further ahead as well. And then some people would argue that you don't really need to do that because you could still get the job. You could still get that partnership. You could still like build a relationship. But the trust aspect is a little bit more difficult to build. And that's what I mean when it comes to the alcohol part, because that's kind of how people establish that, because they open up in that kind of way. I'd say that trust part requires a little bit more building on your side. You know what I'm saying? So you want to become a little bit more approachable. You don't want to make people feel awkward when they're drinking. You know what I'm saying? So if you're going to be in that environment, like I was saying earlier, match the energy. If you don't feel comfortable being there, then try to network with other people that are Muslim. And another issue that really tends to come up when talking about networking is prayer. You know, so like I was saying earlier, I don't really know the religiosity level here, but for me, I try to pray multiple times a day. I'm still getting there to the 5 times a day. I used to be a lot more religious, but I'm kind of building back onto that now. It's like you might want to try to help developing your skills of being able to lead the conversation, especially if you're the person initiating the networking anyway, or initiating the conversation. You want to be able to steer the conversation into subjects that are probably like common ground for both of you. You know, saying like if you're an avid religious person, you probably don't want to talk about girls. You probably don't want to talk about alcohol. You probably don't want to talk about like a lot of things that would be considered prohibited in religion. So you might want to focus the conversation on sports, or you might want to focus the conversation on hobbies or something like that. And in that way, you can kind of get to know people and still build those strong bonds. Like I was saying, networking is super crucial to getting ahead anywhere. You could be the best worker in your firm or in your office, but that doesn't necessarily translate to a promotion. It doesn't necessarily translate to success because you're working hard. You're not necessarily working smart. And especially in today's age, it's more so about who you know and who you're connected with rather than your actual technical ability. That's all I really had to say on that topic. Let me know if any comments that you guys have on this. Have you experienced anything similar with your religion or in any kind of crutch when it comes to networking, and how do you handle that? Let me know in the comments below, and don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time. Peace.